Everybody ready? Oh, silence. You gentlemen ready? Okay. You ready? Okay. I'll call the February Black Mountain Board meeting together. All. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing and let's just have a moment of silence for our own intentions. Okay, you may be seated. All right, first of all, under some announcements here, I'd like to recognize our police departments. I don't have the dates as to when this occurred, but there was a lady that was down in Veterans Park, and she went ahead and she'd been there a couple of times and felt like she was being stalked, so she went ahead and contacted the police department. The police department sent some gentlemen down there, and a couple of days later, they did find this guy, and he was stalking not only her but others, and so he got an invitation out of town, one way. So that's a good job. Please tell the chief that. Okay. I want to go ahead and do a couple of proclamations here. One proclamation and then one letter. Recognizing African American History Month, whereas members of the Black Mountain Town Council take pride in recognizing February 2024 as Black History Month, celebrating the many notable contributions that people of African descent have made to our community, state, and country, and whereas the African Americans played significant roles in the history of North Carolina's economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development, while working tirelessly to maintain and promote their culture and history. Whereas in 1976, Gerald Ford made Black History Month a national observance, and whereas we celebrate the many achievements and contributions by African Americans like Roberta Flack, Nina Simone, E.W. Pearson, and Isaac Dixon to Buncombe County's economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development. And whereas the town of Black Mountain has had 3 Africans to serve on the Board of Aldermen, now Town Council, which include Alderman John B. Hamilton, first elected in 1991, Alderman Carlos Showers, first elected in 2009, and Vice Mayor Archie Pertiller, Jr., first elected in 2022. And whereas African American history presents a special opportunity to become more knowledgeable about African American heritage and to honor the many African American leaders who have played a part in the progress right here in our community. Therefore, I, C. Michael Sobel, Mayor of the Town of Black Mountain, do proclaim the month of February in 2024 as African American History Month. I encourage you to take this opportunity to seek out African Americans History Month's events and celebrations and join in making this period of rededication to the principles of justice and equality for all people. And following on that word justice, this was on Saturday morning. We had up at Montreat Anderson Auditorium, we had a observance of Dr. Martin Luther King. And this is what I said there. It's very gratifying to see so many people honoring Dr. Martin Luther King's legacy today. We are here to not only honor Dr. King, but to continue the struggle for justice in America, a struggle that despite all the progress we have achieved in ending racism and discrimination, we know that the hatred of racism is bubbling just below the surface. All of us have had struggles in our lives, but the struggle for racial equality is different. I just wish to be very open and say, what does this white man really know about racism? I grew up white in a white town, went to all white schools, swam in all white pools. Being a Roman Catholic, I was served by black priests and brown sisters and nuns, so I thought I knew about racism. Yet I was never aware of Wilmington in those days, the destruction of homes and businesses in Tulsa, Oklahoma, or the rest of the horrors in the Deep South in those days. All this opened my eyes to the real struggle to end racism in America. The real struggle to end racism is to preserve justice and democracy. There's an old Hebrew saying, we will not finish the task, but everyone must work towards that end. Dr. King knew that he would not see his task fulfilled, but he never stopped reaching for that goal. We honor that fine man. We revere his work. We revere his nonviolent stance. We too must stay engaged in this goal for a better tomorrow. Just like we aren't Christians from 11 o'clock to noon on Sundays, all of us must work daily to see that justice is done. Now more than ever, with the foundation of our democracy being attacked, we must honor Dr. King by continuing the struggle for justice. For without democracy, there is no justice. Without justice, there is no end to racism. All of us must be engaged in this struggle. And now I want to read the ethics statement. In accordance with the Code of Ethics adopted by the Council, all council members have a duty to conduct the affairs of the governing board in an open and public manner, free of conflicts of interest. Is there any item on the agenda, the outcome of which will have a direct, substantial, or readily identifiable financial impact for any council member, his or her family, or close business associates?
No.
Does any council member have a financial interest in any public contract coming before this council today?
No.
There being none, all council members have a duty and an obligation to vote. And was that incorrect? On the proclamation it said 2022. You were elected in 2020, weren't you? Mm-hmm. I thought so. Make that correction, please, if you would. All right, that's what I've got. And now we've got citizen comments. It looks like pickleball is the flavor of the evening. Catherine and Ochtemeyer. Thank you very much.
You can say Ossermeyer. I figured the clock doesn't start until I sit down.
Yeah,
So
that's
thank you,
right.
Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Catherine Ochtemeyer. I am here to talk to you about pickleball courts.
And your address?
402 West Conley Street, John Wilson's old home.
Oh.
The community garden began in my backyard. My husband Mark and I retired here to Black Mountain in 2018 to be near our children and grandchildren who are residents in town. We're both 68 years old, very close to the average age of Black Mountain residents, which according to your comprehensive plan is 64. I don't know if y'all knew that, but we're right there. And oh, by the way, 64 is also the average age of Black Mountain pickleball players. Take a look at the room. And as people who are aware that our aging clock is ticking away, we work to stay as active and mobile as possible. I mean, look, I've had 3 knee replacement surgeries. I cannot play tennis. I cannot run up and down a basketball court like I did in high school and college, but I can, doggone it, play pickleball. It helps me stay fit and keeps me outside. And in order to stay in shape for pickleball, I'm forced to be active in all other kinds of ways. Pickleball is also important to us for the fellowship it provides. I kid you not. I've been in the church all my life, but the relationships we form because of this game, I would liken to the community caring and mutual support I have found in church settings. It's remarkable. It's become a huge part of our life and had an impact on our lives. And in this time of marked increased social polarization, pickleball helps strengthen the social fabric of our community by bringing a wide variety of people together in a friendly and inclusive way. So I come before you today to appeal not only for new and dedicated pickleball courts, but for more than 4. It's not uncommon for 40 plus people. Oh, is that, we're good? You like the thing green? Okay. It's not uncommon for 40 plus people to gather to play on courts that will hold a total of 16. And when you stand there waiting for a long time, you get discouraged and you leave and you don't play anymore. The town benefits from this sport as well because the welcome newcomers receive on these courts is unbelievable. And people come back and continue to come back because of how they've been welcomed. That was my time. But anyway, I'm going to finish. A pickleball friend who could not be here tonight writes, "What started as a casual interest has blossomed into an essential part of my life. I can confidently say that I need pickleball in my life. It's incredible how the shared love of a sport has brought so much joy and made it so easy to connect with such a diverse group of people. Encouragement and positivity flow freely, end quote. Now let me add one incidental note in closing. Our son-in-law, a resident of Black Mountain, loves to regularly play recreational basketball and wants to introduce it to our grandchildren. But the basketball courts are in such disrepair that he drives to Asheville to play. So I hope the council will give consideration to the need for well-maintained basketball as well as pickleball facilities. I thank you for your time, your attention, and particularly your service to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next sign up was Mr. Bill Boyd.
Hello, my name is Bill Boyd, 13 Treetop Place, Black Mountain. And obviously I'm here to support pickleball and also the Craigmont Park renovations. We've been having these discussions since pre-COVID. I think it's about time that we act on what we've been talking about. We've gone ahead and had a lot of studies, a lot of estimates made, and we read the studies, get the estimates, and by the time it's to be acted upon, the estimate is no longer valid and we need more money. So I think it's time that we start to put our money where the community needs it most, and I think for us, I'm not as young as this lady before me, I'm 79, but I enjoy pickleball whenever I have a chance to play it, which I haven't had a chance to play it too much because there's so many people out there. We've developed so many friends in the pickleball community, and that when we were doing a lot of hiking, now we play pickleball, and pickleball is for us is where the action is at. I also support the idea that we need to work on improvement with Craigmont Park and the basketball courts. They're atrocious. You're going to hear a presentation later on tonight from Josh about the Craigmont thing. We need 6 courts, not 4. We can host tournaments, which would bring in income to our community, hotel rooms, hotel meals. I mean, there's a whole support out there. If we can get tournaments, we need 6 courts to have tournaments. So thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you guys decide, ladies, decide to act this year, and let's get something done.
Thank you. Next up, Lisa Williams.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Lisa Williams. I live at 108 Entoffer Street, down the street from Liva. I play at Craigmont Park because I like to be outdoors as much time as possible. All of my friends play pickleball, and anyone is welcome to join our group. The nature of pickleball is social and accessible. Anybody at any level can play pickleball and enjoy it. I see families coming to the park. I talked to a woman whose husband was playing with her 7- and 9-year-old daughters, and they were good. Last Saturday, there was a man who came with his teenage daughter, and they were hitting the ball across the tennis ball court. And one of our pickleball players beckoned them over to his court, and 2 of them played with the father and daughter and taught them how to play and gave them some pointers. This is who we are. It's time for the town to elevate pickleball to the level of other sports. Playing pickleball on a tennis court is a little risky because the baseline is very close to the fence on one side and the tennis net on the other. So when I'm playing and the ball is hit deep, I have to be careful not to run into the fence or run into the net. Sometimes I'm not that coordinated. Also, for the past 3 years, I've been tying the windscreen that's on the southern end of the fence with plastic twisty ties because it's been flapping in the breeze, and if you're standing there trying to serve, it smacks you in the arm and smacks you in the back. We need dedicated pickleball courts now. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Cecilia Hines.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I'm Cecily Hines. That's all right. I live at 323 Pinnacle Drive in Black Mountain. And I want to second everything that has been said so far about the critical importance that pickleball provides in our community for the social, emotional, and the mental challenge of the game is also something to throw in. But I guess the point I wanted to emphasize is that this is one of the few sports that age nor sex is critical in the determinant of how you enjoy the game and who's going to win the game. So there are not that many. I have, as an aside, I have to say I'm also an avid croquet player, and for another day, that whole croquet court needs major attention, major attention. But I think both of those, when you've got a sport that appeals to every age in the community, and grandparents can play with grandchildren and everyone in between, it is super fun. It is hugely community building, and I think that the more we invest in those kinds of sports, the more healthy our community will be. Pickleball is a rage across the country, as I'm sure you know. And if Black Mountain doesn't keep up with what's going on in other towns, I mean, you can look at what's going on in small towns, big cities, all across the country. Pickleball is just growing rampantly. And Black Mountain needs to keep up because we need to keep attracting, new families and new people of all ages. So I just encourage you to do that. And yes, we need at least 6. I would argue even more, but thank you very much.
Very good. Next up, Larry.
Get out my 14 pages. Larry Perlman, 203 North Park Lane. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, town council members, for giving me this opportunity. You might be shocked, I'm going to talk to you about pickleball. As evidenced by the turnout tonight, pickleball is no small issue in Black Mountain. We had over 6,200 players in 2023. That was a 25% growth over 2022, and next year it's going to be the same kind of growth. Nationwide, it's the fastest growing sport in America. As you may have heard, 3 years running, it's the fastest growing sport in America. Adding enough courts now is imperative to handle the wave of the future. A study done by Black Mountain, by this council, regarding recreation desired by Black Mountain, residents had pickleball right at the top, as you all know. And for those who think that it's just a sport for us old guys, nationwide, 30% of pickleball players are in the 18 to 34 year category. So it's not just for retirees. Both short-term and long-term recreation plans that have been put forth by Black Mountain include pickleball courts. Now it's a question of getting them built. The number of players today, plus the rise we're going to see in the next year and beyond, calls for us to add at least 6 dedicated pickleball courts. Now, I will personally say that I'll share the love with our tennis friends if we have to, as long as they're permanently lined for both sports, although we prefer to have our own. Pickleball is not just a sport. As you can see, it's a community. Our pickleball players now have their own newsletter, they have their own book club. Many people who met on the pickleball court are now fast friends, and I would not be surprised to find out that more than one romance started based on drop shots, volleys, and slams. The sport is easy to learn, it's inexpensive to play, it encourages healthy exercise, camaraderie, community building, and intergenerational bonding. what better arena can the town invest in? Thank you again for listening. Let's get those 6 courts built.
Thank you, Larry. And the last one to speak is Marion.
That's for new business, so do you want me to wait for the comments for new business?
Yeah, yes, yeah. All right, that takes care of the citizen comments. Josh?
Mr. Mayor, I did email out, you and council about adding agenda item to number 4, which would be Buncombe County Tax Department. Mr. Keith Miller's here. I'd like to go over some reappraisal information for mayor and council for the upcoming calendar year, 2025. Keith?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for giving me a few minutes of your time. I am Keith Miller, your county property assessor. We'll talk about something really exciting now, tax. Okay, that's kind of hard to follow with pickleball, I guess, but anyway. I come here in an interest to share with you what some of the things that we have going on. We are now working on the reappraisal for 2025. So January 1, 2025, every property owner in Buncombe County, town of Black Mountain, will get a letter from me. You will be affected in some way. Doesn't always mean negative, but your value will change. I can assure you of that. So I'd like to share a little information with you, and also you will have the presentation. I'm going to go through it fairly quickly. I'll try to make it as speedy as possible, but also reaching out to the residents of Black Mountain through this avenue, and hopefully they will hear some of this information that I want to share with you. So, I first want to remind what it is that the assessor does and what the responsibility is. We have a responsibility to all the residents of Buncombe County and the residents of the town of Black Mountain, and you as the council and the governing board of Black Mountain. We're responsible for the listing and assessment of all real property and personal property. By statute, the statute says we are responsible to list and assess all real personal tangible property. We manage land records, ownership status, all motor vehicles, business personal property. We administer the special programs as far as present use value, exemptions, and we revalue approximately 130,000 parcels of real property every 4 years. Some facts for you. 130,000 parcels of real estate in Buncombe County, about 8,900 business accounts, 12,000 personal property accounts, 227,000 motor vehicles. So yes, when you get your DMV, welcome to come and pay and get your new tag. We did do that also. So we do more in real estate. Some people do not think we do, but we do also set the value on your motor vehicles. Taxable value for Buncombe County for FY24, $44 billion in real property value, $2.9 billion in personal, $1 billion in public service, $3 billion in motor vehicles, for a total taxable value of $51 billion for the FY24. How does Black Mountain contribute to that? 5,045 parcels of real estate, 387 business accounts, 277 personal property accounts, 7,535 motor vehicles. For FY24, $1.5 billion in real property value, $148 million in personal, $17 million in public service, $89 million in motor vehicles, for a total approximate taxable value of $1.75 billion for FY24. These are numbers every year. You probably know that I communicate back to Mr. Harrell and his team, and helps you set your tax rate and what your revenue would be for your upcoming budget. Reappraisal 2025, it is coming. Everybody will be affected. Why do we do it? North Carolina statute says we have to do it. The assessor must do it at least once every 8 years. Budget County Commissioners do have the authority to make that term shorter, and Budget County has been on a 4-year cycle for many, many years that we do it. Properties appraised 100% of market value at the most recent sales that occurred leading up to it. And how do we do it? Mass appraisal. What's mass appraisal? First, mass appraisal is no different than if you had a private appraisal done on your house. We use the same methods, we use the same theories, appraisal theories and methodology that any single property appraiser would do. Sales comparison, market approach, cost approach, and income approach. We look at all three for every property in Buncombe County. Why do we not do single property? Many residents ask us this. Why do you not just come and look at every house? Why don't you just look at my house and give me a value on that? We don't do single property appraisals. Mass appraisals, we value groups of properties, which we find and delineate into market areas. Why don't we do it? If we do single property appraisals for all 130,000 parcel real estate in Buncombe County, we estimate it take approximately 270 appraisers to do that in a year's time. It is not financially nor physically feasible for us to be able to do that, so we look for other ways. Now, that's who we are, that's what we do. What's next? We're working on reappraisal 2025. Our first goal is to get out into the community. We want to be here sharing information with you. I invite any of your residents who would like to hear more from us, from their community associations or churches or whomever they may be coming together with in the community, that want me to come and speak to them and talk to them about reappraisal, how it affects them, what they can expect, what to do when they get their notices. We want to be out there helping and being able to offer this education to the residents of Black Mountain and Buncombe County. We're working to improve the data quality. You probably, hopefully received one of these blue cards in the mail. We mailed approximately 80,000 of these to all the residents of Buncombe County saying, we need your help, update the data on your property. And because if it's incorrect, then I can't send you a correct value. The better value that we have, the better job that we do for the town of Black Mountain and for you as residents of Black Mountain. The other thing that we just flew all 660 square feet of Buncombe County. We didn't, our contractor did. We gather aerial and oblique photography of every house in Black Mountain and Buncombe County. Far picture on your right is an oblique shot from an aircraft. It's approximately 45-degree angle. We have this for every home here in Black Mountain. We can see the front, back, and sides. It helps our appraisers sit at their desk and do desktop inspections. We can see the condition of homes. We can also measure them. We also get a bird's eye view, the picture in the middle, and we get a sketch overlay on the house. How does that help us? This is a tool called Sketch Inspect. This is another data collection and improvement process that we do. You see the house on the far right? You see that house has one 2-car garage. The house in the middle has two 2-car garages. Well, guess what? We didn't know that. That property owner probably added that at some point and never told us. So we have bad data, and we're not going to send a good value because of that. So how do we overcome it? The company, the contractor, overlays the sketch that we currently have on the house on top of the photography. If it doesn't match, it pops out a notice to us and says, hey, you need to go take a look at this because something's not right. The other thing we do, we drove every street in the town of Black Mountain, 1,878 miles all across Buncombe County. November, December, we did this, taking street level photography. So we have street level photography of every street, every home in Black Mountain. High quality street level photography that our appraisers can use from their desktop, that we can measure houses, we can measure decks, we can measure additions, we can measure heights, we can do a lot of different things. We can look at elevation for flooding and stuff like that, all from this photography that we get. Our newest tool that we've added, automated valuation modeling. Automated valuation modeling gives us a new value on 90,000 houses every night that we see in our system. How does it do that? We take all the historical sales data, we take all the data from the sales transactions from the day before, feeds into the system regenerates 90,000 values every night for us to use for auditing and to look at trends across the county, where things are happening, where growth is, where growth's not, certain things like that. So it is a new tool that we use. We also have a new toolbox for our residents. If you go to our website at either tax.buncombecounty.org, or you can now download our app, MyValueBC. Type in your address, you'll be able to see your picture of your home, all the data related to it. If you want some specific information, you can also get it here. If you want to know about your general area, you focus in on it. It'll tell you about all the sales data, permits that have happened in that area, sales ratios. Gives you as a resident and any property owner an idea of what's getting ready to happen for 2025. You can go here today and look to see what are the houses that have been selling around you to give you a better idea of what your value may be for 2025. The other one is Comper. You slip on the ribbon, the little button that says Comper. If you go to Comper and pull your property up, any owner can go here and just in a few minutes have an estimated value of what your property is today. Comper will take yours as the subject. It'll let you pick 3 comparables for it, and it will give you an estimated value. This is us also putting out transparency to our residents to say, we want to help you understand better what we're doing, how we do it, the data that we use to do it, So now it's all available for any property owner that would like to see it. Again, our app, you download that, you'll be able to quickly on your electronic device pull up your property, pay your taxes, look at an appeal, do a lot of different things right from your electronic device. Appeals. This is one thing that people get a little confused about sometimes. Every property owner has a right to appeal your property value in any year. Any January 1, any property owner can appeal your property value. That is your right by the statutes of the state of North Carolina given to you as due process to make sure that you are paying your fair share of taxes and you're not overpaying or underpaying. So you can appeal for a lot of different reasons. I encourage your residents and you is that if you feel something's wrong, when I send you that letter in January, February of 2025, and you see that new value, and you think something's wrong, your right is to appeal it. That is the avenue back to us to say, re-review this for us. Something don't look right. How'd you come up with this value? I think it's this value, you think it's this value. That's the appeal process. It's not a controversial process. It's very easy. Our appraiser will sit and either informally talk with you about it through mail, or you can meet face to face and be able to do that. Another reappraisal myth that I want to point out for you is that the one bold, when assessors state an average of 20% increase, does that mean all taxes will increase 20%? No. But the first thing that people will say to me, when the media comes to me in the latter part of this year, going into January, and they say, Keith, what's the median change for the values across Buncombe County? If I were to say 20%, immediately what somebody's going to say to me, oh my God, my taxes are going to go up 20%? No, that is not true, okay? That's a median, number one. Some is higher, some are lower. Some people's may go down. But that's a value increase. So you know, and Josh knows, is that when I send him this new value, he's going to bring to you and say, okay, where do we want to put the rate? Do we need more money? We don't need more money. Because the values went up, typically the rates come down. So a 20% increase in the value does not always mean a 20% increase in the rate. So, a reappraisal schedule. We're working now through December end of 24 on all of our tools and updates of data and evaluations. January 1, the values will become effective. January 30th, around the 1st of February, I will mail all 130,000 property owners a letter telling me what your new value is, giving you instructions on how to appeal that value if you would like, or how to communicate with us. January through April, you will have the opportunity to appeal informally. That means you can come back to me as the assessor informally and ask me to re-review your value. If you don't like what I say, come April, the Board of Equalization Review will convene, 5-member board appointed by the county commissioners who will hear your appeal for you. Okay? June 30th, tax rates are set. You set your tax rate. County sets their tax rates on municipalities and fire departments and taxing authorities will set their rate. August, your tax bills will become sent to you and will become due in September based on your new 2025 valuation. Property tax equation, who decides who pays what you pay? I do the appraised value, you do the tax rate. That equals the tax bill. Okay? I don't set the rate for the county, nor do I set it for the town of Black Mountain. That's your job. I give you the value, you decide how much revenue you want, and most people in this county do not understand this equation. They come back to me and say, Keith, why did you charge me that on my taxes? Why did you increase my taxes? Which really wasn't me. I might have went up on the value, and your taxes might have went up, but I didn't set the rate, okay? That's the county, municipalities, and fire districts who determine the rate based upon the revenue they need. That's about as quick as I can do it. So, I would love to hear your questions. There's a lot of information for me to try and get out in a few minutes. But any questions?
It's too hard to nail, to drill down to the exact on it, but you mentioned that this is a mass appraisal, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So how does that tie into when I get an appraisal that I disagree with, and so that I come in and say, I think it's too high? So you're going to be, you or your appraiser, are going to be looking at the various comps.
Yes.
Around. Is that kind of how, what?
Yeah, so think about it this way, is that if you live in what we call a neighborhood or a community, a market area, and the best way for people to think about it is that if you live in a well-defined subdivision in which the homes are all equal, somewhat equal in size and age and quality, then if we have 10 of those houses that have sold, then that starts giving us numbers that we fit into a model, and we statistically then spit back out a value based on what the characteristics are for your house, which should come within a reasonable estimate of what a property appraiser will give you, okay? There's typically circumstances that will exist though that we don't know about. Here's the big one people should be concerned about. When I send you a value, remember, 99.9% of the homes in this county I will never see inside of. I do not know the condition of the interior of your home. You may be living in lavish and gold, or you may be living with holes in the floor. I don't know that if you don't tell me. So that's the biggest reason we often get the value wrong. But I hope that in some general sense kind of answered your question.
What about on commercial properties? Because I've seen in the past several times where a commercial property is, the value is what it sells for. And so that if the business sells for, let's say 1 million, but then I've looked back and seen that now on the appraisal, it's 600,000.
Well, you said
Help
the
me out on
business,
that.
okay? Listeners, when was the sale? Okay, so let's take today. Today's values were January 1, 2021. If that property sells today, it still has a valuation for January 1 of 2021, not 2024. So whatever appreciation or change has been in the market from 21 to 24, the state of North Carolina does not let me recognize. I cannot do that until the next reappraisal in 2025. And then we start catching up with the market.
And then you would
okay?
pick up that sale.
And then we pick up the sale, and then we put it into the model to figure out what is the value of 21. Because we did the value in 21, it may be sold in 22, but I still can't revalue it until 25. So it has to stay where it was at
Okay.
in that year in which you sold it, okay? Anything else?
Anything, any questions? All right.
Good, thank you, I appreciate your time.
Thank you. You have one of the most enviable jobs in the county.
I'm sure every one of you love to have some.
Next will be your consent agenda. Consists of 4 items. Adoption of meeting minutes, that being December 6th, 2023, December 7th, 2023, December 11th, 2023, December 14th, 2023, January 4th of 2024, and January 8th of 2024.
On the December 14th meeting, special call meeting, which was about you, it listed in there, it said $5,966.02, an increase of that amount bi-weekly. Shouldn't that say an income of that amount bi-weekly?
Yes.
Instead of an increase?
Yes, that's what it should say. Yes, I did not get that.
I'm sure you would like that.
Yes, we'll change that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's wrong. Yeah. Should just be an increase to instead of up. All right. Item 5B will be your monthly property tax collector's reports. Item 5C, amendment to the contract for audit accounts. And 5D, consideration of Mountain Heritage Troutwater's memorandum of understanding. And that'll be your consent agenda.
I've got a couple of questions on C, the amendment to the contract for audit accounts. They have listed, they meaning Gould and Kilgan, have listed in here the reasons for the contract amendment was that, we've had bank reconciliations that were not complete for that audit period, didn't have reconciliations between the subsidiary ledgers and the general ledger, and then we also had something on that did not have information required for all audit complete by the agreed upon time. My question is this, number one, how much extra did they charge us for this?
I don't have that answer, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I can get it though.
Okay, if you would, please. Also, too, on this, I noticed that when they gave their report, and this was from the audit report, it listed 6 separate items. It listed, there's no number on this particular page. But this comes under note number 2, stewardship, compliance, and accountability. It's got deficit fund balance for the fire department and developmental services that we were short. But they said that this shortfall will be recouped in future years through transfers.
That's correct.
All right, but the excess of expenditures over appropriations, there was 4 general fund, environmental protection, general fund debt service, fire department, and then general project. Have those been completed? Has those items?
I don't know where you're looking, Mr. Mayor. I don't have that in front of me.
Okay.
I can't answer that question.
Okay.
Happy to get
Well-
you answers.
Well, I mean, I know that when the Golden Killian was here, that was one of the things that was gonna be satisfied. The reason I'm saying is I just wanna be sure that those are satisfied
Sure.
before I put my name on this piece of paper.
It might be helpful if we pull it from the consent agenda and have it on the next meeting, when he has the information available.
Okay, well, that'd be fine
Would
with
that
me,
be a
if
good
that's
way to
okay
do
with you. Yeah?
I think if we wait that long, we will not be able to submit this to the LGC, so that's another month
Oh,
behind.
okay.
Well, I mean, you can see my concern here. I mean, I wanna make sure that these items have been, that in the ledgers,
Sure.
they're in the proper place and have been gone ahead and been reimbursed.
Right.
Because, we would have to pull money from a fund balance, it looks like, to be able to satisfy
That's
these.
correct.
And that's just what I just wanted to know. I didn't know whether Tammy knew whether that
Tammy is
was-
out sick. She's not here tonight.
Okay.
So I can't answer that tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Well, it's just a concern I've got. I just,
Yeah,
I mean, those are very important things that didn't get done properly.
Yes, that's correct. And we've had that conversation.
if we approve this consent agenda tonight, can we revisit it next month and look at those items? I mean, if we've got a deadline tonight on that.
So we cannot submit our CAFR to the LGC until this is signed.
Okay.
So that is in limbo currently.
And so you'll go ahead and make sure then that if the board wants to go ahead and pass this, so that we can go ahead, you would bring then to the next meeting then, showing where these have been satisfied then,
That's correct.
these excessive expenditures over appropriations. I mean, I'm satisfied with that.
I'd be comfortable with that.
If y'all are comfortable with that, I just want to make sure that they get done. Well, is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I'll move that we adopt the consent agenda as presented.
With the amendment to the meeting, to the minutes.
Exactly, you're right, absolutely.
Okay. All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, it passes.
We need item 7.
Yeah. Marion, if you wish to speak now.
I have a PowerPoint. Can you forward the slides or do I?
It's the right there. You just turn it. So right. Yeah.
Forward, can you bring it up?
Yep.
Give me a slide. Good evening, thank you for having me. My name is Marion Kamenetz. I live at 360 Genesis Circle. I'm here to talk about the Dr. John Wilson Community Garden. And you'll be hearing from Lucille in a few minutes about the strategic plan. So these kind of go together.
Okay, so this will be 3 minutes?
Yes,
Just to
3
be sure.
minutes.
Okay,
My part
very
is
good,
3
very
minutes.
good.
So first I want to say thank you very much to everyone, Parks and Rec and Town Council and everybody involved for making the garden manager a full-time position. What you will see in the strategic plan are our priorities for the next several years. This is currently the garden on a beautiful sunset day, and you can see the barn there. If we could go to the next slide, please. So the barn structure is in need of repair. The building inspector has reported that several items need help. It is structurally in a mess in several ways. The roof is a problem and it leaks, and next slide please. Sorry, I got this out of order. The priorities for 2024 that are the most important are to repair the barn and make it a structurally safe facility, and we think that's going to be under the threshold for capital improvements, so about $20,000 or less. To provide a water purification system to have potable water, about $12,000 to $15,000 was what was estimated. The produce needs to be watered and washed with clean water. We need to be able to donate produce that will be accepted by Bounty and Soul, and we currently do not have potable water on site, and this would also help us have drinkable water. And the last part of what we're really trying to get done in 2024 is to make a site plan for planning building locations, which is approximately $3,500 for a contractor to draw up the plan. Next slide, please. So I got the second slide out of order. This is the barn floor. It's currently broken, rotting, and structurally hazardous in a big way. The next slide, please. And this is an indication of the lack of appropriate shelving and storage, because we have to put things on the floor, which traps moisture, which rots the floor. Next slide, please. I want you to see how important this is, not just to the people who have plots and those of us who volunteer, but groups of all ages volunteer at the garden. So having a structure that is not going to damage their livelihood if they kind of go through the floor, and water that they can drink, I think is a good thing for all of us. I would also like to say the garden is Black Mountain's garden, and everything from programming to produce with donation reflects on this wonderful town and the people in it. So let's do the right thing and get these critical priorities funded. And if the volunteers who are here or plot owners want to stand and see who they are, because not all of them speaking today, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Do you have any, is that the only comment we have, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Number 8, unfinished business. Mr. Josh Henderson, Lake Tomahawk Playground upgrades.
All right, so we have discussed this for a few months now, I think, and I have presented you with what I think is the best possible outcome and solution to our Lake Tomahawk upgrades. So just some background information, which you've probably seen. The current structure was put around in 2004. We had the Eagle Scout project that put in the pour-in-place surfacing, and then you guys budgeted us $100,000 last year from ARPA funds for these upgrades. This design has not changed. The only difference in the price quote that you have tonight is the pour-in-place surfacing. Looking at this project and thinking about the future, I know when we met during our budget retreat, you guys established Lake Tomahawk as a priority for this upcoming year. And I think it's in the best interest of the town that we put in the pour-in-place surfacing so that we have a cohesive unit out there. I just don't think it would look kind of sloppy for us to have this upgraded, painted structure that's there with nice surfacing and then add in swings and these other elements and then have mulch. So I'm asking that you guys approve this design with the pour-in-place surfacing. Now, the cost has gone up slightly by about $2,000 because we didn't get this order in January. They guaranteed us the price that we had. I think you guys should have the updated quote in your packet. They guaranteed us the price through January to lock us in. We didn't order in January, so now it's gone up by about $2,500. So if you guys have any questions about any of this, I'd be happy to answer.
The only, I don't have a question, I just have a comment. Having been raised in and around that lake, we work on Laurel Circle, so when we were kids, we didn't even have the benefit of having mulch, much less having a pour in place. I just think that with the requests that we have for so many other things, especially in your recreation department from these folks here that are playing pickleball, we can buy a pickleball court for that amount of money. I mean, I know as far as just aesthetics, that the pour in place would look nicer, but I mean, these are kids out there playing. I don't think that they're, it's my opinion that we could get by and save some money and just use mulch. That's my comment on it.
Josh, the idea is that this new corn play would tie into the existing one.
It would. So the way that would look, if you had, I wish I had a picture of the current things out there, but I didn't include it in this. So if you're standing on the path and you're looking towards the playground, we would take out the bench and what's currently there. They would weave in the new pour in place with what's there, and there'd be a concrete. It's kind of like a, like if you think about a sidewalk, it'd be like a little barrier around three sides of that, so it would all be enclosed together.
Concrete like you could sit on, like kind of bench?
Yeah, similar to a ledge, like the side of a sidewalk where it drops down.
I see.
The other piece of this pour in place surfacing is it makes it accessible for all. I think that was the vision behind the pour in place that we have now with the Eagle Scout project, was so that if somebody is in a wheelchair, they can access that area with their children.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little more difficult, obviously.
Which is the walls. Yeah, that's my concern with the mulch option, is that it would limit access. And that's not something that any of us want.
Josh, last month a citizen came and expressed concern about the sandbox being moved. Is that in the
Sandbox is not
plan?
going anywhere.
No, I was surprised because I didn't know that was a topic under consideration. Okay.
No, what is currently there on the ground with the current structure will stay. The only thing that will be removed is the area with the swings and the benches in between there.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the proposal includes new swings, so.
Right.
Yeah. I am curious about the need to repaint the existing structure, and I had a little bit of back and forth with Josh Harold about, but maybe you can speak to also, like, is that purely aesthetic?
Purely aesthetic.
Okay.
The goal behind that was just to match the new things.
Understandable.
Yeah.
And, that's $4,000 we could shave off. So, in terms of like non-essential to the physical enjoyment of it anyway, maybe aesthetically for the parents and stuff.
Sure.
Using it, but
I do think you have to replace mulch more often.
mm-hmm.
Am I correct about that? That
Yeah,
the
sure.
pour in place stays in
Yeah,
place
yeah.
a pretty long time.
But having done a lot of landscaping, you can buy a lot of mulch for $51,000.
So just to be clear, it's not like there's a pot of money we're talking about tonight and it's either pickleball or it's the garden or it's the playground, it's not, that's not the situation.
I mean, I think, if you go to any modern playground, they're all pour and play, and it's more durable, it's more accessible, it's much softer, it's a better play experience. I think that is the new standard. So I'm certainly in favor of trying to move towards that.
I'm more inclined to go with the pour and play for the reasons that were stated earlier. I have 501c concerns. It's not accessible for all, so.
Do you remember, Josh, there was some site prep that needed to be made for, even if we were going the mulch route. Like, it wasn't just a savings of $51,000 to go mulch. Do you remember what the price difference was between that?
Not without having the, let's see, there is this one here.
Well, they have on here $7,800 for excavation of a new area.
Right, so there would be some of the things, this cost could change depending on what type of soil is there. If we are able to, and I can't answer this question, but if the dirt is considered clean and we're able to retain that as a town, dump it somewhere here, then we will save some money on that. And if it's not, it has to be hauled off, and that is the price it will be. So that is subject to change slightly. I just don't know the exact figures on that. We won't know till we get into it.
And I suggest we, if we're not gonna upgrade this playground for another 20 years, then we do it right, and, put in, well, if you know the life expectancy of these form play services.
I can't answer that.
I'd be in favor of kind of moving forward with where we are, or what you're suggesting.
I'm in agreement.
Google says 10 to 15 years.
That's more expensive than what we paid for the grass in the soccer stadium. Anybody else got any other comments? No. Do I hear any motion?
I move to approve the updated costs and project design as presented.
Any more discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes. Josh?
All right, item 9A, new business. This could have been in consent, but we'll go ahead and talk about it since we got it in new business. But this is consideration of a resolution to apply for the Stratton Funds or Stream Flow Rehabilitation Program grant for stream debris removal along Black Creek here in town.
This will be very short because I don't have a whole lot of time right now. We did have an engineer walk the corridor and determine that stream bank rehabilitation is the preferred work in the area as opposed to debris removal. That was not really the issue on Black Creek. That's also much more expensive. There is no maximum ask on this grant, so the engineer is working on developing a scope along Black Creek, and we will size it to a workable area, probably in the neighborhood of 1,500 feet to 2,000 feet. It would be both sides, involve a number of private property owners, which is allowable under this program. But we won't know exactly until he does that scope of work. We apply, and we see how much they fund, and we can truncate that or rescope it if necessary based on property owner interest and award amount. So this is just a resolution to your application in by deadline.
When's the application be notified?
It should be by June.
So just updating this from stream flow to stream bank, same category
Yes, so
of
we were
grant funding.
successful, we had 2 successful grant applications through this pot of money before.
Yeah.
They did not allow stream bank rehab in prior rounds because they had to keep overwhelming response, that they only let it be debris removal. But they're saying this is truly the last round of funding that they will provide, and they have opened it up to the stream bank rehab.
Yeah, I know that there's some invasive species that have really taken over. I think that's been great, so that would be great. Cool.
Any more questions of Jessica? If not, if y'all want to pass a resolution, do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the resolution to apply for the STRAP grant for stream bank restoration along Black Creek River.
Any more discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. All right, passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Josh Anderson, The next two. 9B, consideration of Dr. John Wilson Community Garden Strategic Plan.
All right, if you haven't had a chance to meet Lucille, Lucille is our full-time community garden manager, and I'm going to let her. I'm going to let her lead you through the strategic plan.
Mr. Mayor, council members, we have been working on a 10-year strategic plan for the past couple months, and I'm here to present that to you tonight. Well, I'm going to talk about what happens at the community garden first. So for some of you who maybe haven't been down there yet or who don't know the scope of the program, and also some of our recent accomplishments, and that's to give you some context for what this strategic plan is supporting and to help you show the impact of what's already happening and what could happen. And then I'll go through the proposed strategic plan, operational goals, capital goals, programmatic, and then those priorities and why. And then I'll return back to the impact that we'll be making through these programs and through the strategic plan. So our current programs include rental plots, of course, where people grow food for themselves. Our donations to Bounty and Soul, which are distributed at no-cost markets to our community. We have volunteer work days most weeks out of the year, and we're providing space for connection for people, both the new people coming to town and also folks who have lived here for a very long time. We're providing space for movement and experience with growing food. We have paid internships each season, which give opportunity for folks to learn more deeply over a long period of time, both for young people and for people who are looking for possibly a career change. And those internships also provide reliable labor for our garden. We put on educational workshops every year, which range in topics all related to something, gardening related. And all of those workshops are either free or sliding scale or at an accessible range. We are also the only free composting service in Black Mountain besides your backyard. So we have a composting drop-off that we recently, the town added the last half of the compost bins that we've been waiting on that got put in there, I believe, in 2021. Finished those up last year. We also have a food forest that we tend throughout the park with fruit and nut trees, and we are doing invasive species management throughout the garden, making space for native and useful plants that are beneficial to the land and to the people. So a little bit more on this, some numbers and some more specific impact. So yeah, all of these are meeting our mission to grow, share, and educate. We have over 100 gardeners, a couple of whom are here tonight. We have over 84 rented plots, which are split across those folks. We have over 5,000 square feet of growing space that's dedicated for donation purely. And in that space, along with our 10% program where our gardeners grow for donation as well, we grow 5,000 to 6,000 pounds of produce a year. And a lot of this is leafy greens, fresh herbs, and medicinal herbs, which are challenging for folks who rely on donations to reach. We have over 100 perennial fruit and nut trees, which are producing now. We're sending that stuff over to Bounty and Soul as well, also just giving it to our volunteers and other folks in the community. And again, those workshops were teaching people to grow their own food, right? Plant trees, use biodynamic preparations, make herbal vinegars, and take more autonomy for their own health. And we interact between those workshops and the volunteer days and gardeners with over 400 individual volunteers per year, so we're reaching quite a large amount of people, and those range from everywhere to 6-year-olds to 80-year-olds. So we're really getting the whole range in the garden there. And the last piece that I kind of want to slip in that's not on the slide with all these programs and all this stuff that's already going on is this is the culmination of 20 years of this garden. This garden was started in 2004. So this is the garden's 20-year anniversary, which is pretty exciting and shows how long it's been here and been supported by the town. which I think is a really good time to bring the strategic plan into existence. So some accomplishments, like we said before, full-time manager, thank you, personally. And I've really seen the benefit and the positive feedback from gardeners and volunteers and community partners who I work with, being able to give them more time and be more accessible. And some more numbers. This is our 2023 number, 5,400 pounds of produce. We recorded over 2,000 hours of volunteers. That's always an underestimate because it's hard to track people. And then we diverted 8,500 pounds of kitchen waste from the landfill here. And that was without these new bins. That was a 25% increase from last year, and so we're probably just going to increase more this coming year. Another thing that happened this year was we transitioned to a digital harvest log. This is going to make it easier to share our data with partners, and it's also going to make that data more robust so that we can apply for grants and make better progress reports about what we're actually doing, what's growing well, where it's going, and all of that good stuff. And with the same program that we built that digital harvest log, our interns also created a resource page for our gardeners, which we hope to link once it's finished on the town website in the future, and just starting to make more resources and also providing all this work that we're doing with this kind of digital program that I've been working with is going to be accessible to all of our community partners and any other community garden in another town that's hoping to get started and needing some infrastructure. And of course, accomplishments of this strategic plan getting done. I have been working on this with Josh Henderson and Jessica Trotman and some volunteers from the Friends of the Community Gardens, Sean Sloan, Craig Siska, and Marianne Kamenitz, who are all here tonight. Thank you all. They put in a lot of work to help us get here. And this is just an example of that program that I was talking about for the harvest logs. This is our plant database. You can see it's nice and pretty, it's easy to use. And this is all specific to our garden, right? There's lots of plant information out there, but the purpose of this is to provide specifically for our Black Mountain Community Garden, what's growing there, what are people seeing most often. And this next slide is an example of how our community partners are using it. So we share our data with Downey and Soul, and without me having to send it to them, live updates, they can see what we're weighing as we're weighing it. And they can see the total for the day and the total for each of the things that we're harvesting. And then, for the end of the year, when we're kind of looking at how do we impact for the whole year, it automatically totals by plant, or we can even break it down by leaf or root or herb or things like that. So just getting a little bit more robust in the way that we track and see what our impact is. So, strategic plan. These go over our goals for the next 10 years. I'm going to highlight what is a priority, starting with our operational goals. Each of these operational goals are either addressing safety concerns, supporting our current programs, informing the relationship with our users, right, the folks who are moving through the garden, moving through the park, and facilitating the ease and efficiency of work, both my work and volunteers and gardeners' work. So most pressing right now are, one, an updated site plan to allow us to have a bigger picture of how all these pieces in the plan are going to fit together, right, and prevent us from placing buildings or structures in the way of what we want to come later, right? We don't want to stick our foot in our mouth before we get there. So making sure we have a good map to guide us. Potable water and an updated water filtration system for our irrigation is really pressing right now. Bounty and Soul has updated their food safety needs for all of their community partners, all of their farms and gardens, which means that we are needing to shift to do more of the post-harvest handling. That means washing, right? We don't have potable water on site, so we can't wash our water. We can't wash our produce. And they do have a wash site that we're gonna be able to use in the short term on their site. But, you know, not having potable water at the garden is a challenge for other issues besides washing produce, right? Also washing hands, also drinking water. And having it on site will allow, you know, that to be more efficient. With the water filtration system, we are watering from the Solano River, which is not known for its cleanliness. And, you know, while post-harvest handling, washing does take care of most of that, it is better to reduce potential contamination by cleaning that water a little bit more before it gets to our produce, right? There are a number of different ways to do that, but we do have a volunteer or somebody who's engaged in the garden who's been working on designing a water filtration system that I think is a really good option for us to look at. And I'm going to come back to the barn repair structure because that's going to lead into my next slide. So our other operational goals are going to include building covered sitting areas so that we can have better gathering spaces in the garden and invite more people in. Inspecting the rain barrels, which gather rain off of Great Eagle, which we water with during the winter. It'd be good to just check those out while we're talking about water safety, make sure they're clean, make sure they're functioning. Repair the leaf collection bins. This was actually proposed last year for the budget, but it got cut. They are now literally falling down. And this is a way that we keep yard waste in our community and put it to use in our gardens. So that'd be really nice to fix. Electricity, getting electricity down to the garden will allow us to use different types of tools, allow us to have different types of workshops down there, and get us a little bit just more capacity. Improving our tool storage, upgrading signage, and eventually having an assistant garden manager position to better support our programs that are in existence and the ones that will come. Go back to the slide one more time. Okay, so barn repair structure. As Marion mentioned before, our barn's in pretty significant disrepair. And replacing the old barn with a new structure is one of our capital goals that I'll talk about next. But before we get there, we're not going to get there tomorrow, so we do need to fix some things so that it's safe. One thing that I would like to note is that the town did repair part of the floor, I believe in early 2022 through Public Works, replacing the worst floorboards, but this fix was done pretty poorly, and it was an example of kind of slapping a Band-Aid on a problem to just like get it over with. And I just want to observe that if we kept doing that with the barn, you know, we'd probably spend as much fixing it as we could just put a new structure there. So something to think about: the longer we wait, the more expensive it gets. If we are going to have a new structure, we might as well do it sooner. So short-term barn needs fixes. Bigger picture, we need a new facility. So that, and then our next slide, go ahead, is again those rotting floorboards that are in the garden. We do currently have something slapped on top of them so nobody falls through, but you know, it's not a great fix. So these capital goals, like the operational goals, you know, they're all meeting either keeping us moving forward as a model, growing our program's impact, or orienting us toward the goals that are already set out and already accepted by y'all, by the town of Black Mountain, in Elevate Black Mountain. Okay, and I want to note, like, keeping us moving forward as a model, there aren't other small towns that have as robust and impressive of a garden as we do. And the reason that this garden is successful is because it has consistent leadership and funding. Every single community garden person that I talk to in the area, right, we have like networks where we meet up. It's like, I can't get funding. Our leadership keeps changing because we can't get funding to pay our leadership. So, right, having my position full-time and the many years that it was supported part-time has allowed it to grow in this way and has allowed the programs to become what they've become. So back to the barn, this is a example of a previously proposed design idea. This vision of a new facility has been in discussion for, I think, over a decade. It's a big desire from the community. And it's really needed to properly support our current programs and operations. And this design here was drawn up by a volunteer and includes a greenhouse as well as a second story for events. And this doesn't have to be the design, but it's an example of the time and effort that the community members have already put into this goal. And during that time, I'll also mention that when this model was proposed and there was some movement behind it, just one individual engaged in the community gave $20,000 for the project. And that's an example to say that I know these are kind of bigger ticket items. We don't have to spend it all out of the town's budget, right? There's fundraising, we have a lot of community support, there are grants, there are creative ways to raise this money. So I don't want it to get shut down because, it's like a scary big ticket item, because there is a lot of support from the community and there are creative ways to fund this and make it happen. A new facility would probably include a greenhouse and then also obviously include permanent bathrooms, but of course those could be pursued individually as well. And then lastly, for capital goals, this was a goal that was already laid out in the 2022 Recreation and Parks Master Plan, this inquiring contiguous property. For example, the horse farm that's up for sale right next to it. Yeah, spin that up. All right, and lastly, programmatic goals. Each of these programmatic goals is strengthening our connections that we already have in the community and beyond, caring for what we have, and keeping our program adaptable. And these goals include sharing systems with other growers and partners. So like the harvest data that I was showing before, all these programs that I've been building out are very easily shareable. And you can make templates out of them and give them to people so they can build their own programs out, right? Also enriching the internship curriculum that we have, continuing professional development to stay up with the times and keep learning, improving our perennial care of the trees and bushes that we already have, increasing the visibility of the garden so that people know what an amazing asset this town has, and expanding participation. So to wrap up, the impact that the town makes through community garden includes reducing waste through composting, like I said before, educating our residents to improve health and resilience, providing access to local healthy foods, providing space for community building, maintaining beauty and ecology of the park, and bringing pride for residents and attracting visitors. And we're a model, like I said before, and the purpose of this strategic plan is to give us a map so that we can stay at the forefront and not just let this awesome thing that's already been building fall by the wayside. And that's all I've got. If you have any questions.
Good presentation.
Thank you.
I am proud. Go ahead.
I must say, just sitting here, wearing my citizen hat as opposed to my council member hat, I'm just really frequently reminded about what an extraordinary community we have. I'm getting a little choked up here. I mean, the garden community, the pickleball community, the Lake Tomahawk is such an asset, and we're a small town, and we have so much to be grateful for. And so I'm just saying that out front, that it's all appreciated for sure. So let's get back to business. I think you had a comment, Mr. Mayor.
Yes. This is just another example of the Friends of the Dr. John Wilson Community Garden who have gotten together and worked with you to go ahead and get this strategic plan, which is not a committee appointed by this board. It's amazing how many groups that we've got in Black Mountain right now that are working without the sanction of the board. for the betterment of the town. And they work together, just like basketball. Jesse Gardner has organized the basketball and has gone ahead and worked with the town on some facilities. You get beautification. We help beautification with a little bit of money, but there again, nothing compared with the amount that they are giving themselves. You look at the Greenway Commission and what they have accomplished. So these small groups, outside of being formally chastised by the board, have been doing a tremendous amount of work. And I just hope that will continue. I will give a challenge, because when we built the soccer center 15 years ago, most of that was done with volunteer labor. So whereas a lot of folks, certainly you have a lot of volunteers down there, but a lot of these projects, I'm just thinking they're of the water line. We get somebody with a backhoe, we get somebody in there to get the water line in, we go ahead and put in a septic tank system to have a bathroom down there. You know, we don't have to always go out and pay somebody else to do it. So the more that we can work together on this, the better we can stretch the dollars, because there's a lot of people asking for dollars. So there's only so much that this board can do. But if we work together, we can accomplish a whole lot more.
I do think coming up with a strategic plan for the next 10 years is moving the garden up a whole new level of professionalism. And I applaud the effort that's gone into, and looking at all of you, there's so many of you that have stepped up to really take it from just a hobby, a fun hobby, to a really professional level, and incorporating it in with the recreation staff. I think it's going to move it forward a lot better in the next 10 years in a real significant way.
Yeah, I was just add I'm incredibly grateful for the work that you and your team have done for both this strategic plan, but also every day you're out there working in the garden. So then, just practically speaking, and then a question for you or for Josh or who, but once we have the strategic plan, obviously there's projects that they've identified. Would the idea be that then we would, as we consider the next capital projects and the next budget, we could pull some of these as priorities and put it in the.
That would be my plan, to present you some options in the budget.
Okay.
And some of those things have already been included into the capital improvement plan that we're currently working on.
And as far as some of the things that are safety issues right now, what is our plan to address some of the more immediate needs of falling through floors and things like that?
Yeah, so like she mentioned, we have mitigated that for the time being, but it's just a Band-Aid.
Well, if we're talking liability issues, I think I'm sure you're aware that we can't tolerate that, that we need to address them sooner rather than later.
Pleasure of the board.
One question, it's not really about the strategic plan, but if people wanted to contribute free waste to the compost setup, what's the best way to do that? Because I know a lot of people don't know about that.
Yeah, that's part of accessibility. We need some better signage down there. Generally, you just send me an email and I tell you what to do, and then you do it. Yeah.
This is more of a personal thing. I'm having a problem getting some hay that doesn't have any, or straw that doesn't have any seeds in it.
Yeah.
Is that just part of the game?
Yeah, I have one gardener who gets straw for us, but I also don't really like using it, or not to get stuff with pesticide on it.
Okay.
That's why we use leaves. That's why we have the leaf composting bins.
Well, I've got a few leaves in my garden across the street
Yes,
on Blue Ridge Road. All right.
I'll echo the immense gratitude to Lucille and everyone that's been part of putting this together. It's so helpful to have not only the presentation and the pictures, but like it all written down and really seeing in words just the impact so that you can begin to feel the ripple effects that this has here. So it's just really, really incredible work. I am curious, and this is not really a conversation for today, but kind of big picture looking at how we can expand and continue to be able to grow the composting and leaf and yard waste debris. Because, yeah, not everyone knows about that, and yeah, the word gets out. We don't really have, I'm not understanding this, we don't have the capacity to have much more involvement with that program, but I don't know if that's accurate at this point.
The new bins will help us take a little bit more.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, we're a limited space.
Yeah.
But we're like kind of meeting that niche between like large scale composting, which is a really big issue in our area because it's really hard for lots and lots of reasons to have compost facilities on a large scale in Western North Carolina. But, you know, it's a good like way to drop in small composting units on like spaces like, you know, the community gardens. So there's a potential for dropping small spaces like that in other areas. I mean, our compost bins are right next to the Greenway Trail. Nobody complains about it, you know, it's not like that's like one of the biggest things is nobody wants a composting facility in their backyard, but like, if you do it right, it's not an issue and you can make it like, you know, not egregious.
I, of course, would love to see that grow and everyone to be involved, but anyway, conversation for another day, so thank you.
Does the board wish to move with a motion to adopt this?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the strategic plan for Dr. Giles and Community Center Garden.
All right, any more discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. Good job.
Item 9C, Cragmont Park renovations. Mr. Henderson.
All right. On February 14th of 1994, the following was recorded in the minutes from a regular session Board of Aldermen meeting. It was noted that Cragmont did not have adequate parking and no restroom facilities. Well, here we are, 30 years later, almost exactly, and we still don't have adequate parking or restrooms. I bring this up because I know you guys are going to be tasked with a tough decision tonight to look at these numbers. They have changed quite a bit. But I want you to ask yourself, what is your decision tonight? How is that going to affect the next 30 years? You've heard from a lot of people tonight that have talked about the importance they have and how they are able to live in a healthy community. And they do that through Cragmont Park. So I want you to know that this project is more than just the numbers on this page. This is a multi-generational project. And it's going to affect our citizens in this community for years to come. And so I want you to think about that as we look through this because obviously it's not going to be an easy decision. So I've got a few slides. We have a design done, which you can see, kind of outlines some of the things that we're looking at for this project. The only thing that really has changed from this design is that where it notes that there's a practice soccer field, that will actually be moved to the further parcel down. So that will not be there, but it will be on the...
Is that where the fire station used to be?
Was, yes.
So where it says open green space, that would be the practice soccer
That would be
field.
the practice soccer field.
And where the practice soccer field, where it says that would be just more green space buffer.
Correct. Just not enough space to put one there, and we've measured off the other side.
Okay.
We can fit one there since we currently don't have a soccer field. We're using the schools to run our outdoor soccer program. A couple more pictures just kind of shows you what we're dealing with there.
Some product placement there.
You can see, next slide is, again, the overflow of people waiting to play pickleball. And then you can also see on the next slide just the setup that is involved in this. Obviously, we have one court that has pickleball lines on it, but we cannot permanently line the other one because of USTA. So the people who play pickleball do that themselves with tape. And again, you can see some of the cracks there. Moving on, I've got some pictures of the basketball courts in here. And you can see we have grass growing through those.
It's hard to dribble and know where your ball's gonna go with
Right.
cracks on that court, I can tell you.
Right. So, kind of while we're here, you guys budgeted us the following numbers there. To the right are the average estimates of what we were able to obtain. I'll go through each of the estimates as we go through this, but you can see the only thing new there, it wasn't previously included, but if we're talking about doing this project and getting it done for the next 30 years, at the bottom is park security lighting, which I'll get to at the end. But those are the average of all the quotes that I was able to obtain for these various project elements. The next slide is just a graph showing you what those look like in comparison. So the blue is the original budget that was set, and the orange is that average number. So you can see that there. And then kind of going through are just, these were the vendors that I was able to get estimates from that make up that average number. And as you can see, some of them have nothing to give us for repair on the basketball courts, and that will be a theme as we look at the rest of them. Go to the next slide. Wayland Tennis built our tennis courts at Lake Tomahawk in 2021. I was not able to get anything from them on this project, so that's why you don't see any numbers from them. But there again, there's some numbers from Baseline. And then in doing this project, I reached out to some people in my network who were also recreation directors in various municipalities, and I was put in touch with this engineering firm. And they gave me these numbers here, but again, you can see some of the things that they believe are beyond repair. The last is the paving quotes that we were able to get. And then moving on to the restrooms. This is an option that we have. It's a little different than per se. If you think about the Veterans Park project, we built those bathrooms just from scratch with a contractor. These are mobile bathrooms. The one at Town Square is one of these. These are two different designs. Essentially all we would be required to do is have the site ready. They bring in a crane, they set it down, and they connect it. We had these in some other places I've worked, but it's another option.
Is it a septic system or what?
Sewer.
Sewer, okay.
Mm-hmm. There are a few, and they're not on the design, I believe, but there are a few MSD connections at Craigmont. I believe there's one that runs about where the parking lot and porta-johns are now. There's one a little further down where the parcels break, and I believe there's one on the other side over there.
The sketch that or not the sketch, but the drawing that we have, does that put the bathroom kind of roughly where we could connect it, or is that part of the design at that point?
Kind of yes and no. So in talking to contractors, where it is in the design would actually, to be closest to an MSD connection, if you can go back to that design slide, that MSD connection is probably close to where it says new sign. There's a little red marker there between the two trees near Solano Avenue. Yeah. That's where the MSD connection is. The further away you move from that MSD connection, the higher the cost of running sewer. So the proposal would really be to put the bathrooms kind of where the porta-johns have been before, in between the tennis and basketball courts, just for cost savings on sewer lines.
So you may lose some parking spots there, but yeah.
Right. And then the last slide that I had that talks about park security lighting. This was something that came up in the master plan, and you'll see where that falls. I think there are two things. Those were priorities that were expressed by residents when they took surveys, and that's the data there. You know, a lot of our parks, Veterans Park, Riverwalk Park, Cragmont Park, if you go out there at night, there's not a lot of lighting, and people don't feel safe, and that's one reason they don't use them as much as they would like to. So park security lighting is just adding some lighting poles throughout the park. I believe there are maybe one on the corner right there at Swanneville Avenue, kind of close to the basketball court. So this would just be adding additional lighting for safety.
And so that would not be court lighting?
No, it's not court lighting, this is just park security lighting.
So do any of these estimates include court lighting?
No estimates include court lighting, no. There are no court lighting estimates in this project.
Because the current lighting is not adequate or non-existent.
Yeah, it's really only on the basketball
I think there's
side.
2 poles right there that just light up the basketball courts, and I'm not aware if they even work.
I think one of them does.
So, yeah. So what we really need from you guys tonight is some direction on how to move forward with this project, because obviously the cost is not what we thought it would be when we set out for this. And there are a few things that we need to know, and I think the first is pickleball courts. We need to decide whether we're going to build 4 or whether we're going to build 6. You've heard from some players and community members. They have come to us in the past and said that they would be willing to fundraise to build 2 additional courts. But they need your approval to do that. So that is some direction that we need. Parking. Most of our parks do not have paved parking lots. Just Veterans Park is not. Lake Tomahawk has limited parking. The parking we have there now is gravel, so we need to decide, do we want to pave these parking lots, or do we want to save a little bit of money and gravel? The next thing is path paving. We have it in this budget, and my question is why would we pave the path at Cragmont and not pave the path at Lake Tomahawk?
Because people don't want them.
We chose to do one
person.
and not the other. So that's something that needs to be decided as well. Are we going to leave that as is, or are we going to pave that path? Do we want to include the park security lighting, and how do we want to complete this project?
I have a number of questions, Josh.
Okay.
So going back to the parking, do we have these estimates in here? This the existing lot and the existing plus the new lot. This is for paving those 2 lots. What would I imagine there need to be a little bit of rehab on the existing gravel lot, especially if we were doing a lot of construction there. Do we have any idea how much that would cost, and also on top of that, how much it would cost to build a new lot where we have it drawn but have it be gravel instead of paved?
So I was only able to get one paving quote, and you can see the doing the new lot and the existing lot is going to be about $60,000, and then just to do the existing lot would be $28,300. But do keep in mind that most of these quotes were gathered in October and November, and we are in mid-February just about. So, you know, I can't say that they're still there at that cost, but that's what I have.
So those numbers are for paving, right?
Right. The only thing for gravel is listed there at about $5,000.
And that's for both?
That would be for all, yeah.
Seems too low. So there was one person who said that they could rehab the tennis courts. Talk to me about the difference between rehabbing versus rebuilding.
Well, I don't know what the rehabbing would look like. I only know what they're the experts, so if they think they can do it, then that's what they tell me. Most say it needs to be torn down and rebuilt like we did at Lake Tomahawk. I don't know without having the actual quote in hand to know what that steps would be taken to rehab that, what that would look like. I really can't answer that question.
You know, if we're talking about rebuilding, if we're looking at the tennis courts that they redid up at Tomahawk, they took down all the fencing. I assume it was new fencing that went up, not the old.
No, we saved a little bit of money on the Lake Tomahawk courts by reusing the poles or the mesh. I can't remember, without looking at it right in front of me, I can't tell you exactly which was which, but There is a possibility that some of that can be salvaged down there. I would venture to say probably the poles. If you see the mesh, meaning the chain link, it's in rough condition in some places. So.
But is that included in these estimates, do you know, or?
Some may not. Without having the exact estimate from me, I can't say confidently what that would be.
And then with the restrooms, the two that you shared, were those opportunity to go save about $230,000 with one of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of those fits into our budget for this project. Very slightly.
So I'll just say for the council that I'm very much in favor of paving the path there. I think the town needs more opportunities for safe spaces for kids to ride scooters and bicycles, and a loop around a park is the perfect opportunity to do that. I know there are a number of people who walk the greenways that we have because the paths around Tomahawk or the unpaved paths aren't smooth enough, for their where they are in life and their ability to balance. And so I think that having a more accessible paved path is a really positive asset to the community. At the same time, that feels like something we can do later. It's less urgent than some of the needs around like tennis court and basketball court. And so that would be one thing that I would happily strike in order to be able to afford some of the other stuff.
Can you go back to the design slide a second? So, if you were gonna put in 4 pickleball courts, you would just have a big empty space there? Like, doesn't it make sense to do 6?
I think it would just be green space up front there.
Yeah.
More parking.
Is it really that much bigger than the two? Like, are those drawn to scale?
It's to scale.
I think there's more buffer space around than there would be with the tennis courts. Buffer between each court.
Well, did I hear you right when you said the pickleball folks have indicated a willingness to contribute to the other 2?
Yeah.
That's a factor to me.
I mean, I don't know anyone who's like, I think we need less pickleball courts. Like, this is the issue though, is like, where does this money come from? So, I mean, I'm all in favor of, we have a space where it's possible to have them. So logistically, how does this work? We say, great, we would love to have 6, y'all go forth with your energy and verve and, find, some additional funding to make that happen. What does that look like for us? What happens there?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I'm asking Brian.
Oh, great.
I don't know that he has an answer either. Yeah. So I can jump in.
But that's something we could look into.
We could look into it.
Okay.
And that was one of the best things that I've heard tonight, was that the pickleball folks wanted to help to contribute. Because while I'm all in favor of pickleball, everybody in this town needs to understand that even the little kids that play soccer have to pay to play soccer. People that go ahead and play golf, got to pay to play golf. And I'm not saying that we need to set up a booth down there to charge y'all to do it. But there again, it's just this meshing together. Let the town come in and do a lot of the line share and the heavy loading, but it's going to be up to y'all to help too. And if we do that, I don't see any reason why we couldn't do 6. I would certainly hope that the board here would do that. And if we had to go ahead and forget about paving the parking lot, it's a very special place. Even before
was born, even before you were born.
I don't know. It was special when I was born, I'd say right now.
The Kiwanis Club of Black Mountain went ahead and raised money, and my father was on that along with quite a few other men. Maybe Mr. Early was part of that. And they went ahead and they built down there what was called the Youth Center. Black Mountain had no recreation department. So there was a big building down there that had restrooms. And out in the field where you're looking at the pickleball ball courts was a baseball field, and that's where the Little League baseball was played. And then the Babe Ruth was there. That lasted probably till maybe I was, I don't know, somewhere in the 70s, early 80s, and then that structure was old and then it got torn down. But this place has always been a place where the community in that area has gone to have sports. And I just think it's a great thing that we're looking towards getting this done. But to how to get it done, we can't get it done to these kind of figures. Something's got to give. I don't think we need to have any kind of paving for parking lots. I mean, gravel's fine. And if you want to pave it down the road, pave it down the road. If you want to pave the path, pave it down the road. But just to get this thing going. Also, too, where the tennis courts are and where the basketball courts are, a lot of that area in there that was filled, those are built on what's called blue mud. And anyone interested in me knows anything about building. Blue mud is just a collection over thousands of millions of years of just organic matter. It's got a lot of clay in it, but it can't pack as well. And so the settling over these years has caused those courts to crack, both the basketball and on the tennis courts. So there's going to have to be some remediation of the soil underneath that, which may run a little bit more than what we think. But I just think that we need to keep that in mind
Well, I can tell you that
when we start doing that.
there were borings done down there, and those were given to all the court contractors I met with, so they're aware of what's underneath.
So if they're aware of it, okay, all right. If they're,
I wonder if that's why the Beyond Repair came in for a lot of them.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Hard to say.
I think most of them are beyond repairs because that's exactly what they are.
Oh, agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No more than willing to invest in it.
Exactly.
We budgeted $442,000, I believe.
492, actually. Those numbers don't match up. We did budget 492.
92.
Yes.
Okay. And, you know, if we were to take out path paving and the parking, or the parking paving, you know, that's, well, I don't know which numbers to look at here, but if we're looking at this slide, it kind of compares the two. You know, that's about $200,000 in savings.
I know several contractors that I think we can get those bathrooms built for a whole lot less than $100,000.
The ones we built in Veterans Park were 102. And the newest ones that we've done, that were completed back in early spring last year.
And I might make a suggestion that when the decision is made by this council, we bid this out. We will bid it out and take bids as a package and see how it comes in. Some of these numbers may come in cheaper, maybe more expensive.
I would be interested if we're not gonna pave both parking lots in having a paving pad for some accessible handicap spots. I think just, it's really difficult for folks that already have mobility challenges to be dealing with gravel. I don't think that means that we need to pave the whole thing. And we have an example of that right on the north side of Lake Tomahawk. By the tennis courts, right, and we have like a couple paved parking spots.
Well,
That a lot to pay.
Not a lot to pay, but a good
Okay.
example is the Veterans Park
Veterans.
restrooms.
Thank you.
So because it's new construction, you have to follow ADA, so we had to put in a certain number of handicap, and it's concrete, it's not asphalt, we had to put in
Right.
accessible parking
Right.
for those bathrooms and the pavilion.
So if we're gonna put in bathrooms here, we would also have that
Yes.
requirement.
We got to have a certain number of paved accessible parking.
So is that showing in these estimates, or?
Not in that manner.
Okay, okay.
So the field there, the existing field, below the basketball court, it's not currently being used by practice field, as a practice field, right?
It's not currently being used at all.
Well, it's used by the community, obviously.
Right, I mean, for our programming purposes.
Yeah, when, I think it makes sense to keep all the courts together and probably the bathrooms, but, I think that it would be quite a loss to lose that existing green space. If we can shift it down, that's great. Maybe it makes more sense to have it kind of on its own. But that field would need a lot of rehab itself, right? I mean, that's not in this budget. Like, what do we?
We could do most of that in-house, just grading it out and selling it.
And our staff is capable of doing that.
Mhm.
Okay. Good.
Like,
One suggestion I would have would be just to go ahead, you've already appropriated money for this. Just start saying, we want this, we want 4, I'm just gonna say this, we want 4 pickleball courts, we want this, we want that, and then just until the money's used up. Then, from there, make other decisions. I would think if you did the 4 pickleball courts, knowing then that maybe the folks out here can raise some money to help us, but it's gonna be a while until we get to the point of actually building something.
we need to know what amenities you want to add so that we can bid it out.
Yeah.
It's really the direction that we need. We can't just throw it out there and say, well, maybe this, maybe that.
It's true.
So if we give you direction tonight, you could come back when when can we move on this thing? These people, everybody, all of us have been waiting for.
We'll need to, if you give us direction tonight, we'll bid it out. We'll need to give a few weeks for those bids to come in. I mean, it would be ready it would be ready by the next meeting.
I think that's important. This has just been going on and on and on.
And you can do what the mayor suggested, take what you've got and start making dents in it. You can do budget amendments, you can do part of it now, part of it next year. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. It's up to y'all how you want to do it.
I mean, it's gonna take multiple fiscal years to do all this. I mean, it just is.
I mean, we do have a healthy fund balance, and I honestly could tell you, we could do the budget amendment and probably do all this and still be okay.
We have a little bit of leftover funds, right? Our funds unassigned, right?
We've got to buy our recycling carts for that shortly, but about 400,000, we'll probably have around 200 or 250,000 left roughly.
I mean, I'm inclined to go ahead and say that we want to do the tennis courts, basketball courts, 6 pickleball courts, and the restrooms, and kind of see where that.
I'm inclined to do the same thing because I think there's no thinking about it. The longer you wait,
Yeah.
It's more expensive.
the more expensive it's gonna become. And you'll be doing the same thing again the next time you talk about it. And it never gets done. And people will be looking at this 30 years again from now.
Well, they'll be fixing it. But we'll be in disrepair by then. That's what we have to do.
Well, hopefully not.
No, I'm just saying.
The idea would be maintain it so it doesn't get to this.
Yeah, what I'm saying is we keep pushing it and pushing it down the road. It's never gonna get done.
And just to give you an idea about maintenance, so with courts, it would be about $10,000. So $10,000 for tennis, $10,000 for basketball, $10,000 for pickleball every 5 years. And that's just a resurfacing every 5 years. That's the recommended.
Yeah.
You'll see that in next year's budget for the Lake Tomahawk courts that we just built.
So let me ask you about lighting. If you're in the process of building all this stuff, wouldn't it be easier to install lighting while everything's all dug up? So should we add that to the list?
Yep.
I don't want to dig up anything afterwards to put in lighting.
Yeah, mayor's right in one respect, it does cost them a lot of money, but the longer you wait, the more money you pay.
True. And I do want to pursue the fundraising. I want
Yeah.
to come up with some kind of
MOU or something with the pickleball folks so that we can authorize them to do that, so we can offset some of these costs. And just create community ownership of it.
I agree with that.
It looks like about $60,000 difference between the 2 courts and 4 courts, or 4 courts and 6 courts.
Yes. Based on the averages.
I think it might be a tall order to ask for them to fundraise $60,000, but.
Sounds like about $1 each.
I think we just got the books and it was like.
That was pretty quick. I like that.
We're lucky to have such an active and invested community.
Absolutely.
We really are. So coming back to Josh, the questions that you put to us, how many courts? I hear a consensus that we have the space and appetite for 6. If we can have some kind of MOU as Councilmember Stone has suggested, to see about engaging the community in doing that fundraising. I feel like we have an answer there. For parking surface, it sounds like we're not totally on board to redo the both of them. Where are y'all at?
One thing to keep in mind here is that, all this, we're on one belt in a day. So, you can try to do this whole thing at one day, one time, but you could go ahead also, and let's just say you have, of the 6 components, you go ahead and you bid out 4 of them. And then you have a 5th one that you could do if we raise, that nominative plural is pretty easy for me since y'all are gonna be raising the money. That then you go ahead and say, well, we can't do the 5th one because we didn't have as much money, they didn't raise as much money, so therefore we can just do the 4. I was trying to give you an option.
I agree with you, Mayor. I also know that there are a lot of things that are being requested of us right now, and that if we're not careful, it will be another 30 years before we come back to Carmont and meet these projects. And I would love to just make that park what it should be and move on so we can go on. But parking and the path paving, really all the paving projects to me are something that can pretty easily be done later.
I do think it's cheaper to build the 6 while the trucks and stuff are there, than we say, come back and build us another one.
Yes. But we will be looking at expense for either gravel or paving. The existing parking lot is rough. and to add the 2nd one, which I think makes sense with, implementing the new courts and all of that. So is that what we're leaning towards? I don't really know how we move forward with the courts and not address parking surface at all. So gravel until the event,
Gravel until.
okay.
We come back and look at that again.
Can you say back to us what you've heard us tell you to do?
Sure. We're going to look at fundraising for the 2 additional courts. We're going to gravel in the parking lot and the path. I believe that's where we're at.
In terms, if we were gonna approve a package that you were gonna bid out this next month, what does that include in what you've heard?
Tennis courts, basketball courts, pickleball courts, gravel parking, route nest path.
Bathroom and lighting?
And
just there again, that for the end, that lighting being the last one could be one that would have to scale back if these others went ahead and called.
And to be transparent, I don't have a direct quote on the park security lighting. That number was pulled from the master plan, so that was one of their recommendations. I haven't spoken to anybody about what that cost would look like, but That number was taken strictly from the master plan.
So if we put it in the package tonight, you get it bid out next month, when you're looking at it, and it's like $1 million for lights, we could,
Right.
we could just mix it, but at least we have some information,
Mhm.
right?
And as far as next steps would go, that was so, whatever, whatever bid we get would come back before us.
That's not how we typically would do
No,
it.
it's
This
not.
type of stuff.
Okay.
We would, since you budgeted the money, we would bid it out and roll. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
I mean, you may accept the bid, accept the contractor, but as far as, that's just how we do this type of stuff. You approve the final bid, whoever the winner is, kind of like when we do a $5 million stormwater project. Whoever the lowest responsible bidder.
Okay. I guess that's my question, is whatever that budget item is,
Yes.
does come back before us.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we're not gonna nitpick item by item.
Yeah, that's up to
I'm
you.
just saying, tonight, are we deciding what we're building?
I mean, I think,
Without
from
knowing the cost?
understanding what y'all been talking about, tennis courts, basketball courts, pickleball courts, at 6, restrooms, and the security line. That's the package that we're.
That's the package.
Would it be possible in the bidding out to see what it would be like to include court lighting? Or is that like, if you put it out there, then you kind of got to go with it?
No, I think, I'm pretty fairly certain you can mix certain things in the bid, if you accept it.
And I can probably give you a rough estimate. I've talked to electrical companies that we do work with about, what is I know we replaced, must have been 2019 or 2020, we had a pole that got knocked down in a windstorm, we replaced one, so I have an idea of what poles look like roughly. I don't have anything set in stone.
Sure. I'm just imagining if you're running electrical for all the other lighting, like, I'd be curious.
Well,
I'm
and
curious to know how
then you
much
kind of run into the idea too, if you like the pickleball courts, you're gonna like the tennis courts, you're gonna like the basketball courts.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's gonna be,
And most parks close at night. Parks close at dark,
Right.
every park.
but we have lit tennis courts after dark.
Well, they're on a timer, they go off at a certain time.
No,
But the parks technically close at night, at dark.
Then maybe we all need to talk about court lights. People aren't supposed to be out there after dark. Okay, all right.
You just
Point
say,
taken.
you probably just say 50 grand.
I talked myself into it and out of it. Very curious there. All right.
We close the parks at 8 to noon on Saturday mornings, we wouldn't need the 6 pickleball courts.
Tuesdays and Thursdays,
All right, so you got your marching orders, right? Get everybody satisfied with that?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, we need to make a motion on that.
Very good.
Oh.
Yeah, I think you provided us next steps, I don't know, if we can make a motion. I think we're good.
Okay.
All right, lastly, on new business will be your discussion on the newsletter.
Should we leave that?
Sure.
All right. So this just came up, Wesley has restarted the monthly newsletter for the community, which I thought he did a wonderful job on. There's a lot of great information, both recaps of the council meetings, but also the project updates they're working on. And I asked Josh for a quote as to what it would cost to be include those in the water bill. Right now, I think that, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we went out on Facebook, they're printed copies here at the office.
Website. We actually considered putting a QR code on the water bills for people to do it that way.
That would be great, yeah. That might be the purpose.
Yes. It's gonna be a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Are there printed copies available at town hall? Cool. So with the QR code, we can say, or pick up a physical copy at
Absolutely.
town hall.
Absolutely.
I know there are folks that they have no interest in reading it on a screen.
Well, I'm satisfied with that. I think something, just announcing it on a monthly basis, I think is.
We can do it. We'll add it to the next water bill next month.
Sounds like we need them out of the pickleball courts. For everybody, yes.
Anything else?
No, I'm satisfied with that.
Brian?
Yeah, Town Attorney Craig Justice isn't here today, so I'm filling in his shoes. He was traveling. Talked to him on the phone. He says he has told you about some updated legislation as it relates to 160D regulations that have been, I guess they've been passed and then they came into effect throughout the last quarter, October, November, and December, as it relates to design elements and other land planning techniques. There was legislation that came in, how did he put it? That came into effect January 1st, talked about delays in audits. Mr. Mayor, I thought maybe you'd appreciate that the state's holding back some funds if the audits are filed more than a year late. But I didn't read that bit of legislation completely. But certainly the 160D, as it relates to single and two-family residential structures and design elements now, there's no regulations on any design elements as it relates to residential structures that are constructed pursuant to the North Carolina Residential Building Code. So I think you can have four. They're all working towards that missing middle piece. Fourplexes gets built under the residential building code as opposed to the commercial code, and so you can't have design elements as it relates to those. So I think that's all he had. There may be some new legislation coming up in this next session as it continues to work towards that missing middle piece.
Any updates on, he said he had, in their December meeting, was going to be meeting with some of our department heads, talk about code enforcement, and this is in particular about an issue that we've got on rhododendron.
Yeah, so we met with the department heads, we reviewed, there are several, not just rhododendron, right? That may be the worst of the cases that we have, but we went back and we reviewed 7, I believe, violations that have been brought to our attention to ensure that what you all have in your code is being followed. We created a list of items that shows the difference between what you all in your code require staff to do for a notice of violation and what the statute actually requires. And in some instances, you require more. You're more strict than what the statute requires. That elevated level of compliance or strictness may put you all at a disadvantage because in order to have an appropriate notice of violation and take action on that, you actually have to serve these folks. And several of the folks' properties, when you look at the tax records, the tax roll still shows it, let's say, owned by my mother, my grandmother. My grandmother's been deceased since 2017. You send the notice of violation to my grandmother's name, it's not really the proper party that should be receiving the notice of violation, and if we don't have any evidence that the owner actually received it, we can't take any action, civil action, against them for enforcement. So there's a couple of different steps that we're going to be working with staff on making sure that we've got the right folks. We did start that because that rhododendron is a rough one. Deceased parties.
It's a hog man.
Yeah, and we had to track down through the estate file as to who owned the property, and truly one of the biggest issues is that the mail service comes back and shows that all of the notices of violations were returned to us, not delivered to the property, but we've got one green card that somebody signed. And so if we had to go to court and we had to attest to the fact that the allegations in the complaint are true, we have no idea whether or not the notice of violation was served. Because we got the green card, but the Postal Service is telling us they returned the whole package undelivered to the town.
So just to get that one specific, are we within a month, 2 months, 6 months, a year?
We're probably 60 days out on Rhododendron Circle.
Okay.
I mean, if the post office can deliver the certified mailings, which the town's ordinance requires, but the statute doesn't, if they can get them delivered, it will be quicker. The town has always sought its enforcement of notices of violations through a civil suit, but when you come to that particular location, this board could do it by resolution, authorizing the staff to retain the services of whatever cleanup crew that you would need to hire to go out there and cut the grass and pick up the trash and make it less of a nuisance, and then you can seek recovery of those fees. So that's a quicker way than filing a lawsuit. But we're working through them, and so we've got 6 ahead of us as the lawyers, making sure that we serve the right people, and that they all get the proper notice, and that we can verify that through the mail systems.
Okay,
Nothing from me.
all right. I don't have anything. Does the council want to say anything?
I just wanted to remind people that we have elections starting on 15, primary elections, early voting, and the actual election day is March 5th. You can vote at the Black Mountain Library.
All right.
I'd like to quickly thank the Greenways and Trails Committee, I think I got that right, committee, for co-hosting with the town the Valentine's Day and Greenways 5K. I went out to watch my wife run, and it was great success.
No issues I heard. I'll say. So, that was good.
And I will say that there's one other positive. There's lots of positives, but one particular one is on the fact that we now have, we don't have it written, but that Ingalls has agreed for a pedestrian bridge to come from Venture's property over to our greenway.
Yeah. Hopeful we can make that work in
So-
our existing easement language. I think we can. I think that's great. Yeah.
Anybody else?
It was great to see folks out for the MLK breakfast and the scholarships awarded in the community. Really, really beautiful.
And Josh, if you want to read them while we want to go into executive session, please.
Closed session 143-3, 18.11A5.
Which is for?
To discuss property acquisition.
Very good. Do I hear a motion to go in closed session?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Let's take a quick break and then we'll meet in the room over there.